the arses against the classes, Lady Bracknell, if that's what you mean.
That is exactly what I do mean. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
Both. To lose one parent, Mr. Burley, may be regarded as misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers call the purple of commerce? Or did he rise from the ranks of aristocracy?
I'm afraid I don't know, Lady Bracknell. The fact is, I said I had lost both my parents. It would be near the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman of a charitable and kindly disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket to Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
Where did this charitable gentleman with the first-class ticket to this seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. In a handbag. A somewhat large, brown leather handbag. With handles on it. An ordinary handbag.
In what particular locality was this ordinary handbag found?
In the cloakroom of the Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station?
Yes. The Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or to any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life that remind one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to. As for the particular locality in which the handbag was found, a cloakroom at a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion, has probably indeed been used for that purpose before now, but could hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a recognized position in good society.
Well, then may I ask what you would advise me to do? I need hardly say that I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce, at any rate, one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
But I don't see how I could possibly do that. I could give you the handbag at a moment's notice. It's at home in my dressing room. I really think that that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. You will clearly understand that for the future there is to be no communication of any kind between you and Miss Fairfax.
Algy, quit playing that ghastly tune. God, how is he on it, you?
Didn't it go off all right, old boy? Oh. You don't mean to say Gwendolyn has refused you? I know it is a way she has. She is always refusing people. I think it is most ill-natured of her.
Oh, Gwendolyn is as right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is unbearable. I never met such a gorgon. I don't know what a gorgon is, but I'm quite sure that Lady Bracknell is one. She's a monster at any rate, without being a myth, which I think is rather unfair. I do beg your pardon, Algy. I don't suppose I should talk about your own aunt this way in front of you.
Oh, I love hearing my relations abused. It is the only thing that makes me put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people who haven't the remotest knowledge of how to live, nor the slightest instinct about when to die.
I haven't got any relations. I don't know anything about relations.
You are a lucky fellow. Relations never lend one money and won't give one credit even for genius. They are a sort of aggravated form of the public.
It doesn't matter whether or not a man ever had a mother and a father or not. Mothers, of course, are all right. They pay a chap's bills and don't bother him. But fathers bother a chap and never pay his bills. I don't know a single chap down at the club who even speaks to his father.
Yes, fathers are not popular just at present.
Popular. I'll bet you anything you like there's not a single chap between all the chaps that you and I know who would be seen walking down St. James Street with his father. Anything in the papers?
No,
What a comfort.
there is never anything in the papers so far as I can tell.
I think there is a good deal too much in the papers. There was bothering one about people one doesn't know, one's never met, and one doesn't care tuppence about. Brutes.
Well, I think people one hasn't met are charming. I'm very much interested at present in a girl I've never met. Very much interested indeed.
But that is nonsense.
It isn't.
Well, I don't argue the matter with you. You always want to argue about things.
That is exactly what things were originally made for.
Upon my life, I thought that I'd shoot myself. You don't suppose there's any chance of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in about 150 years, do you, Algy?
All women become like their mothers. That's their tragedy. No man does. That's his.
Is that clever?
Oh, it is perfectly phrased, and quite as true as any observation in civilized life ought to be.
I am sick to death of cleverness. Everyone is clever nowadays. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. It has become an absolute public nuisance. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left.
We have.
I should extremely like to meet them. What do they talk about?
The fools?
Yes.
No, about the clever people, of course.
What fools?
By the way, did you tell Gwendolyn the truth about your being Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, the truth isn't quite the sort of thing one tells to a nice, sweet, refined girl. What extraordinary ideas you have about the way to behave to a woman.
The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her if she's pretty and to someone else if she's plain.
That is nonsense.
What about the young lady whose guardian you are, Miss Cardew? What about your brother? What about the profligate Ernest?
So Cecily is all right. Before the end of the week, I shall have gotten rid of my brother Ernest. You not kill him in Paris.
Why Paris?
Oh, less trouble, no fuss about a funeral, that sort of thing. Yes, I'll kill him in Paris. Apoplexy will do perfectly well. Lots of people die quite suddenly with apoplexy, don't they?
Yes, but it's hereditary, my dear fellow. It's the sort of thing that runs in families.
Oh, good heavens, I won't say that then. Oh, well, what can I say?
Oh, say influenza.
That wouldn't sound probable at all. Far too many people have had it.
Well, say whatever you like. Say a severe chill. That's all right.
Are you sure it's not hereditary? Anything dreadful of that kind?
Of course it isn't.
Oh, never said that.
But didn't you say Miss Cardew was a little too much interested in your brother? Won't she feel his loss a great deal?
Oh, Cecily's not a silly romantic girl, I am glad to say. She's got capital appetite, goes long walks, and pays absolutely no attention to her studies.
I would rather like to see Cecily.
I shall take very good care that you do not. And you are not to speak of her Cecily. I don't like it.
I believe she is plain. Yes, I know exactly what she is like. She is one of those dull intellectual girls one meets all over the place. Girls who have got large minds and large feet. Yes, I believe she is more than usually plain, and I expect she's about 39 and looks it.
She happens to be excessively pretty, and only just 18.
Did you tell Gwendolyn you've got an excessively pretty ward who is only just 18?
One doesn't blurt these things out to people. Life is a question of tact. One leads up to these things gradually. Cecily and Gwendolyn are perfectly certain to be extremely close friends. I'll bet you anything you like that half an hour after they have met, they are calling each other sister.
Women only call each other that when they call each other a lot of other things first. Now, my dear fellow, if we want to get a good table at Willis's, we really must go up and dress. You know it is nearly 7.
Oh, it is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
But I never knew you when you weren't. Well, they're all right. I'll go round the Albany and meet you at Willis's at 8. You can call me on your way if you like.
What shall we do after dinner? Shall we go to a theatre?
I know I loathe listening.
Well, let us go to the club.
I know I hate talking.
Well, we might trot round the Empire around 10.
You know I can't start looking at things. It is so silly.
What shall we do then?
Nothing.
It's awfully hard work doing nothing. However, I don't mind hard work where there is no definite object of any kind.
Miss Fairfax.
Upon my word, Gwendolyn!
Algy, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing. As it is a somewhat private matter, you will of course listen.
Really? Gwendolyn, I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algy, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude towards life. You are not quite old enough to do that.
My darling.
Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression on Mamma's face, I feel we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children have to say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I ever had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But, although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and though I may marry someone else, and very often, nothing should possibly alter my eternal devotion to you.
Gwendolyn.
The story of your romantic origin as related to me by Mamma, and pleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deep fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address at the Albany I have, but what is your address in the country?
At the Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire.
But there is a good postal service, I suppose. It may become necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration.
My own.
How long do you remain in town?
Until Monday.
Good. Algy, you may turn round now.
Thanks, I've turned round already.
You may also ring the bell.
My darling, you will allow me to see you to your carriage.
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
Glass of sherry, Lane.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going Bunburying.
Yes, sir.
I shall probably not be back till Monday. You can put up my evening clothes, my smoking jacket, and all the Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
Are they still working on those renovations to the east wing, Lane?
They are indeed, sir. However, a well-executed renovation is rather like a well-crafted epigram. No length of time is too long to wait.
Now that you've broached the subject, Lane, I have a couple of new epigrams I was hoping to run by you. Your honest opinion, of course.
Absolutely, sir.
Now, the first one is for instances of foreign travel. At the border, I turned to the customs agent and I said, I have nothing to declare except that I am very clever.
Rather feeble, sir.
A bit long. I have nothing to declare except my cleverness.
Keep polishing, sir.
I have nothing to declare except my genius.
Oh, sir. You've struck gold.
Now, this is for the unfortunate, yet inevitable circumstance of my own imminent demise.
Perish the thought, sir.
Oh, man. Either the alderman goes or I do.
Try again, sir.
Either the alderman goes or I do.
Try again differently.
a duel to the death with the wallpaper. One of us has got to go.
Sir, in Elysium, Horace cries for mercy.
I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
Oh, Lane. You're a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction.
There goes a sensible intellectual girl. The only one I ever saw in my life that I would marry.
What on earth are you so amused at? Oh, I'm just a little anxious about poor Bunbury's health is all.
If you don't take care, your friend Bunbury is going to land you in a serious scrape someday.
Oh, I love scrapes. They're the only things that are never serious.
But that is nonsense. You were never speaking anything but nonsense, Algy.
No one ever does.
Domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion, joyful or, as in the present case, distressing. I have delivered at harvest celebrations, christening, confirmations, on days of humiliation and festival days. The last time I delivered it was in the cathedral as a charity sermon on the behalf of the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the Upper Orders. The bishop who was present was much struck by some of the analogies I drew.
You mentioned christenings, I think, Dr. Chasuble. I suppose you know how to christen, all right? I mean, you are continually christening, aren't you?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in the parish. I have spoken to the poor classes on the subject, but they do not seem to know what the meaning of thrift is.
The church rejects no babies. In every child there is the making of a saint. But is there any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Wood? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not for a child, dear doctor. No, I'm very fond of children. The fact of the matter is, I would like to be christened myself. This afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
But have you any grave doubts on the subject?
I have the very gravest doubts. There are circumstances, unnecessary to mention, connected with my birth and early life that made me think that I was a good deal neglected. I certainly wasn't properly looked after at any rate. But I don't know if the thing bother you at all, or if you think that I am a little too old now.
No, I am not by any means a bigoted pedo-Baptist. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults was a common practice of the primitive church.
Immersion? Do you mean I
You need have no apprehension. Sprinkling is all that I think necessary, or indeed I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what hour would you wish the ceremony to be performed?
I might trot round about 5, if that suits you.
Perfectly. In fact, I have two similar ceremonies to perform at that time. A case of twins that occurred recently in one of the outlying cottages on your own estate. Or Jenkins the carter, a most hard-working man.
Well, I don't see much fun in being christened along with the babies. charge. Would half past 5.
Admirably, admirably. And now, dear Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude into a house of sorrow any longer. I would merely beg you to be not too much bowed down by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me to be a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack, I'm pleased to see you back. But what horrid clothes you've got on. Do go and change them.
Cecily!
My child, my child.
Uncle Jack, what's the matter? You look happy. You look as if you had a toothache. And I have got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother!
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
Nonsense, I haven't got a brother.
Don't say that. However badly he may behave in the past, he is still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are very joyful tidings indeed. That tells me seems so much violence cast by one who wished to play upon your feelings.
His sudden return seems to be peculiarly distressing.
My brother's in the diamonds. I don't know what all this means. I think it is utterly absurd. No offense.
Brother John, I've come down from town to say that I am very sorry for all the trouble I've given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
There is good in that young man. He seems sincerely repentant.
They belong to dissent. They say the laxity of the nonconformist.
Uncle Jack, you're not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his coming down is disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Young man, you have had a very narrow escape of your life. I hope it will be a warning to you. We were mourning your demise when you entered.
Yes, I see Jack has got a new suit of clothes. They don't fit him properly. His necktie is wrong.
Uncle Jack, there is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury. And surely there must be some good in one who is kind to an invalid and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
Oh, he's been talking to you about Bunbury.
Yes, all that poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Well, I won't let him talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else. It is enough to drive him perfectly frantic.
Mr. Worthing, your brother has been unexpectedly restored to you by the mysterious dispensations of Providence, who seems to desire your reconciliation. And it is good for brothers to dwell together in amity.
Of course, I admit that all the faults were on my side. But I think Brother John's coldness to me is peculiarly painful. I was expecting a warmer welcome, especially considering it is the first time I've come down here.
Uncle Jack, if you do not shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never.
I must then. Algebra, you've got to get out of this place as soon as possible. I don't allow buttering of any kind here.
It's pleasant, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation? You have done a beautiful action today, dear child.
We must not be premature in our judgments.
I've put Mr. Ernest's things in the room next to yours. I hope that is all right, sir.
What?
Mr. Ernest's luggage. I have unpacked it and placed it in the room next to your own.
His luggage?
Well, yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a large luncheon basket.
Yes, I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
I beg your pardon, sir. There is a young gentleman come to see you. He has just come in a cab from the station.
See me?
Yes, sir.
Parker and Grimsby, solicitors. I don't know them. Who are they?
Parker and Grimsby. I wonder if they can be. I suppose, Ernest, that they have come about some business of your friend Bunbury. Perhaps Bunbury wishes to make his will and wants you to be executor. Show the gentleman in at once.
Very good, sir.
I hope, Ernest, that I may rely on the statements you made to me last week when I finally settled all your bills for you. I trust you have no outstanding accounts of any kind.
Oh, I haven't any debts at all, dear chap. Thanks to your generosity, I don't owe a penny, except for a few neckties, I believe.
I am sincerely glad to hear it.
Mr. Grimsby.
Yes, Mr. Ernest Worthing.
This is Mr. Ernest Worthing.
Mr. Ernest Worthing
Yes.
of B4, the Albany.
Yes, that is my address.
Well, I'm very sorry, sir, but we have a writ of attachment for 20 days against you in suit of the Savoy Hotel Company Limited for £762, 14 shillings, twopence.
Against me?
Yes, sir.
What perfect nonsense! I never dine at the Savoy at my own expense. I always dine at Willis's. It is far more expensive. I don't owe a penny to the Savoy.
The writ is marked as having been served on you personally at the Albany on May the 27th. Judgment was given in default against you on the 5th of June, and since then, we've written to you no less than 15 times without receiving any reply. In the interest of our clients, we had no option but to obtain an order for committal of your person.
Committal? What on earth do you mean by committal? I haven't the smallest intention of going away. I am staying here for a week. I am staying with my brother. If you think I'm going up the moment I arrive, you are extremely mistaken.
I am merely a solicitor myself. I don't employ any personal violence of any kind. The officer of the court whose function it is to seize the person of the debtor is waiting in the fly outside. But, well, no doubt you would just prefer to pay the bill.
Pay it? How on earth am I supposed to do that? You don't suppose I've got any money? How perfectly ridiculous you are. No gentleman ever has any money.
My experience is that it is usually the relations who pay.
Jack! You really must settle this bill for me.
Kindly allow me to see the particular item, Mr. Grimsby. £762, 14 shillings and twopence since last October. I am bound to say that I never saw such reckless extravagance in all my life.
£762 just for eating? There can be little good in any young man who eats so much and so often.
We are far away from Wordsworth's plain living and high thinking.
Now, Dr. Chatham, do you feel that I am in any way called upon to pay this monstrous account for my brother?
I am bound to say I do not think so. It would be encouraging his profligacy.
As a man sows, so let him reap. This proposed incarceration might be most salutary. It is to be regretted that it is for only 20 days.
I am quite of your opinion.
My dear fellow, how ridiculous you are! You know perfectly well the bill is really yours. Mine? Yes, you know it is.
Mr. Worthing, if this is a jest, it's out of place.
It is gross effrontery, just what I expected from him.
And it is ingratitude. I didn't expect that.
Never mind what he says, this is the way that he always goes on.
Now look,
You mean now to say that you are not Ernest Worthing residing in P4 the Albany? I wonder as you are at it that you don't deny being my brother at all. Well, why don't you?
Oh, I'm not going to do that, my dear fellow. It would be absurd. Of course I'm your brother. That is why you should really pay this bill for me.
I shall tell you quite candidly I will not do anything of the kind. Dr. Chatham, the worthy rector of this parish, and Miss Prism, in whose admirable and sound judgment I place great reliance, are both of the opinion that this incarceration would do you a great deal of good. And I think so too.
Well, I hate to interrupt this pleasant family meeting, but time presses. We've got to be at Holloway not later than 4 o'clock, otherwise it is very difficult to obtain an admission. The rules are very strict.
Holloway?
Yes, it is at Holloway.